Good morning, everybody. How are we doing today? It's another beautiful Sunday morning, and we're all up with our coffee, ready to get this podcast going now, aren't we? Let's get the quick bit of words are difficult of promoting whatever the word I'm looking for is. Anyway, you can watch me live at twitch.tv/DJ_funky_fresh for podcasts on Sunday, as well as gaming videos basically 7 days a week. Twice a day. We do a lot of streaming here. Plugs, that's the word I was looking for. This is going to be a tough one today. You can catch 99% of the things I do on Twitch on YouTube at youtube.com/DJFunkyFreshGaming, including these podcasts. And then, of course, these podcasts go up on SoundCloud and Spotify. Just search Funky Bunch at Sunday Brunch Podcast or DJ Funky Fresh, but mostly just look for the podcast name. That'll help you. So, anyway, now that that's out of the way, we can get started with today's topic. We are going to go over Borderlands. Now, one of the reasons we're doing this is because we've got a new Borderlands DLC coming out very soon. Unfortunately, I know close to nothing about it. But you know what? That's okay. We'll get around to it, figuring out what it is eventually, and it'll be played on stream on the Sunday Funday portion. But anyway, Borderlands. So Borderlands has spawned across 4 main games, as well as a spin-off game that was tied into the 3rd main game. Kind of surprising. I completely expected it to be kind of a one-off type of side deal, but supposedly that's also getting a sequel, but we'll touch upon that later. So, let's start with Borderlands 1. The story. In the distant future of the year 2864, several colonization ships head to the planet on the edge of the galaxy, Pandora. The colonists are drawn there in search of a better life, as well as vast mineral resources that are said to be on the planet, free for the taking. Sometime after settling, the colonists discover that the planet offers little aside from decrepit alien ruins. When the companies mining the planet leave, they let loose the criminals they had employed as forced labor, and left any other colonists there. Some of the settlers seek to get rich quick by discovering alien technology. Most others are just trying to survive. After 7 Earth years, the planet's slow orbit brings a transition from winter to spring, and many dangerous, horrifying creatures begin to emerge from hibernation, making Pandora even more dangerous. A beacon of hope for the remaining colonists emerge in the form of a mysterious alien vault carved in the side of a mountain. The vault is said to contain vast stores of alien technology and secrets. The only problem is that the people who discover the vault were completely wiped out by some sort of protective force, the only evidence of their discovery being a scattered radio transmission proclaiming the vault's majesty, but not its location. The stories of this wealth has sparked renewed interest in Pandora, and corporations and treasure hunters have begun to return to the wastelands to try and claim the treasures of the vault. So that's the story of Borderlands 1. Just kind of what happened, where they came from. So, let's see. This game features several different things, such as single player, 4-player drop-in, drop-out cooperative online, or 2-player split screen if you're on console. Or if it's an enhanced release, it's now 4-player split screen. First-person shooter with a vast selection of weapons and enemies, color customization for vehicles, and loot drops. In the original game, in the base Borderlands game, there are 127 missions, 47 story missions, and 80 side missions. Next is the randomization factor. The game features a gun randomizer, or gun generator similar to Diablo's random item generation system. This generation system can produce over 17 million different weapons. Nearly everything can be randomized with each weapon, including barrel length, projectile type, projectile size, firing pattern, iron sights, scope, color, and material, and even the possibility of various elemental type damages. A quote from Gearbox is, "We saw a ridiculous amount of guns, but perhaps the strangest was a revolver that fired shotgun shells." Gearbox is constantly surprised with what the system comes up with. They've seen rifles shoot everything from homing darts to rockets. One of the gun tracks onto something and locks, and after 3 seconds, the target suddenly explodes. However, some of those features, such as the tracking projectiles, were not featured in the completed Borderlands 1. There's also a PvP aspect where you can, if you melee another player, you can challenge them to a duel. However, you can also go to special arenas in the Borderlands game and duel off in a free-for-all game, basically, or team-based if you've got multiple people. It's solely for fun. There's no items to be awarded or lost for doing it. As well as you can do multiple playthroughs. So after completing the main game, players are free to roam the world to complete any side missions left unfinished, drop off, the key to receive a hefty reward, or wander around to fight enemies and gather more loot. Upon returning to the title screen, selecting the same character to continue play also provides the option to begin playthrough 2. At the beginning of the second playthrough, all the gear, skills, levels, and money that the player ended with in playthrough 1 will be kept, but all the in-game enemy levels scale up, beginning at 34 and continuing upwards. However, once you beat the story of the second playthrough, all enemies scale up again from 48 to 52, and then they'll be renamed. For instance, Maniac becomes a lunatic. If an enemy is called Little, they're referred to as stunted. Brutes become bullies. Players can revisit and battle the game's enemies and most bosses. And then, of course, there is playthrough 2.5, though not in-game itself. This is referred to as the end of the playthrough 2 storyline. Once you beat the story, you start playthrough 2.5. Because any side missions that you have not accepted will continue to scale to the player's levels until they are accepted. Already started missions, however, will remain at the level that they were accepted. This will also carry over to all the DLCs, which will significantly increase their difficulty. And of course, there are numerous pop culture references just within the game, so you'll just be playing through. Like, for instance, in Borderlands 3, there's a reference to The Room. I think that's what it's called. I'm horrible with my memory. But it's like, oh, hi, Mark. But whatever. Anyway, so in Borderlands 1, you have 4 different player classes you can play as. There is Brick the Berserker, who enjoys punching people in the face. There's Lilith the Siren, who is a siren and has the ability to phase walk with her siren powers. There's Mordecai the Hunter, with the ability to use his pet Bloodwing to decimate enemies. And then, of course, there's Roland the Soldier with his Scorpio turret, who you can upgrade and make better. And yeah, that's about it. That's the gist of Borderlands 1. However, we've got the DLC to discuss. These will be quick and painless because there's not much to say about them. So the first DLC release for Borderlands 1 was called The Zombie Island of Dr. Ned. It begins with an introduction from Marcus Kincaid in the form of a story being told to a small child. Child interrupts him with questions and drawings as he tries to recite the tale. It can be speculated that Marcus is telling the story to the same person as in the introductions of Borderlands, but the child remained quiet in that earlier introduction. Brave players who seek zombie carnage will be tasked with keeping the remaining workers of Jacob's Cove alive. Dr. Ned, who is totally not Dr. Zed in disguise, does his job a little too well, creating zombies and other abominations that now run rampant in the region. Players will have to work alongside Dr. Ned as they embark on a quest to cure the inhabitants of Jacob's Cove in this full-fledged expansion filled with new enemies, new quests, and rare loot drops. There's new undead enemies here, with zombie-themed, including Pumpkinhead Boss and Tankenstein. 25 new missions, 5 new achievos. Enemies can scale all the way up to level 70. As well as a total of 6 more backpack slots due to the Claptrap Rescue side missions. And yeah. Here's some trivia. The title is inspired by the classic novel The Island of Dr. Moreau. Scooby-Doo is remade in true Borderlands fashion, with the Misery Machine, Skaggy as Scooby, and Harry as Shaggy. Zoink. And then, of course, in T-Bone Junction, in the second DLC, in the third DLC, The Secret Armory of General Knox, specifically in T-Bone Junction, there are billboards advertising Dr. Ned's treehouse in Hallows End, saying that it is a creepy treehouse for sale. So, yeah, that is the DLC. Gahoo! The next DLC is Mad Moxie's Underdome Riot. I've never actually beaten this, and I will explain why. Mad Moxie is a thrill-seeking woman in search of a new husband. Having gone through 3 husbands already, her search has led her to becoming the ringmaster hostess and commentator of the Underdome. She equates the excitement and the competition of the Underdome to matrimony and plans to stay as long as the thrill lasts. Gameplay includes 3 new Riot Mode arenas where players will fight AI-controlled enemies, PvE, in single-player or multiplayer. The add-on starts with the mission titled Prove Yourself, in which players complete all 3 arenas. That is the only DLC that doesn't contain a full plot with side missions and multiple plot missions. After successfully completed Prove Yourself, though, the players allowed unlimited replay of all the content, including 3 arenas with 25 wave rounds. So to beat the DLC, you have to do that 3 times. You have to beat each arena with 25 wave rounds. That's 100 rounds. 20 bosses. 80 just constant enemies. Now, if you'll remember from Borderlands 3, where we did the Slaughter Dome, imagine that, but lasting about 3 hours. That's why I've never done Moxie's thing. It takes about 3 hours to do 1 25 wave rounds. So, yeah. Like, for instance, there's 5 achievements I'll never get. I've gotten the small tournament, which is just complete the smaller challenge in all 3 Colosseums. Then there's the Hellburbia challenge, which is to complete the larger challenge in Hellburbia. There's the Angelic Ruins, which is to complete the larger challenge in the Angelic Ruins. Then there's the Gully, which is to complete the larger challenge in the Gully. And then Big Tournament, which is completing everything. Yeah, it is. Now here's some trivia. In the title, Mad Moxie's Underdome Riot is a reference to Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. In the trailer for the DLC, when Maxie's first husband is shown, the Konami code runs across the screen, shooting him. The tournament audience sometimes gives a cheer of "Hey yo," a greeting otherwise used by Steve. Steve is featured in many Borderlands promotional works, including the Borderlands Claptrap web series. Killing a humanoid opponent with a critical hit will usually prompt the cheer. Yet another reference to Steve is in the intro clip that plays the first time you fast travel to the Underdome, when Moxie describes her former husband. For number 2, you see the shadow of a bandit raider and hear "Hey yo" shortly after he appears. After players unlock the greater challenges, dead bandits can be seen buried with flowers planted on their exposed heads. Mordecai is the only character who is canonically stated to have won the Underdome challenge as revealed in Borderlands 2, because one of the rewards for winning was to marry Moxie. It is told in Borderlands 2 that the Underdome was destroyed by Handsome Jack after she broke up with him. And it was revealed that there were 13 arenas originally to be included in this DLC instead of just 3. But anyway, moving on to the third DLC, The Secret Armory of General Knox. After uncovering the secrets of the vault and the sudden death of Commandant Steele, the Crimson Lance, led by General Knox, led a massive battalion to Pandora and controlled most of the parched fathoms, a region that once had massive oceans that dried up due to Pandora's sudden climate change and abandoned aged highways littering the area. Vault Hunters traveled to Depot Junction, an old highway rest stop, to stop whatever the Crimson Lance is planning. With the help from Scooter, they built a new vehicle called the Monster to use on the long-haul highways. Scooter tells the Vault Hunters that the Lance has set up roadblocks on both the north and southbound highways leading out of T-Bone Junction. They must reach Moxie, who is in the deep fathoms, and they must first clear the roadblocks in the Crimson Tollway to reach her. Finding her place on top of the ruined highway, she shares her plans of another vehicle called the Racer, an upgraded, faster version of the Runner that will help them through the roadblock on the Ridgeway, a large highway constructed through an open canyon. Vault Hunter fight through a large group of Lance troops, clearing and opening the route while also fighting through a tunnel to reach the sunken sea. They must use the Racer to jump an outcrop that secretly had a highway on-ramp leading to a prison called Lockdown Palace. Finding out that Athena was being held there, and the prison leader Shank plans to sell her to the Lance in exchange for her bounty. After fighting through the prison, the Vault Hunters come across a psycho taking a shower. He warns them of Shank, who shivs him in the back for not calling him Mr. Shank. Fight begins with Shank using Athena's teleportation device. After killing Shank, the Vault Hunter finds Athena in the main prison block. Abandoned is shown bringing food to her, but she drops it on the floor. After meeting Athena, she returns to T-Bone Junction and tells the Vault Hunters through Echo, masking her voice with an advertisement for a male enhancement drug. After meeting with Athena, she tells them that the armory code is locked and tells the players to find an Echo recorder. Turning to the Ridgeway, they find an Echo recorder on the highway of Hell's Highway Outpost. They listen to 2 Land soldiers talking, with one named Derek enjoying Rocky Road ice cream, while the other asks if he has the access code. Derek reveals that he left the code at the world's largest bullet, a small attraction in the sunken sea with a large artillery shell. They return to Athena, who has built a remote detonator that will destroy the armory. With the code detonator in hand, the Vault Hunters travel to Road's End on an area on the other side of Deep Fathoms. They fight the Lance on the highway leading to the armory. They must use the side entrance. Once they enter the compound, they are introduced to General Knox, who is just about to kill himself with several weapons. Instead of killing himself, he decides to fight the Vault Hunters. After killing General Knox, the Vault Hunters can now enter the armory, use the code ECHO, blue, yellow, cyan, orange. They can get into the armory, set the timer, and they have 3 minutes to loot to their heart's desire before the entire place blows up. You actually can redo the looting about 3 times. The game legitimately was just like, hey, I heard that you like loot, so you can loot. Oh, you can loot again. Oh, I heard you like loot. There you go. They legitimately let you keep looting the place over and over, which is really nice. Because you only have 3 minutes, and there's probably over 100 chests in there. But anyway, the title of this DLC is a reference to Fort Knox in the United States, which is synonymous with an impregnable fortress or building. In the Secret Armory of General Knox logo, there is a small 61 in the lower right corner. This represents the maximum reachable level of this DLC. The level increase by the unusual number of 11 levels is a reference to the potentiometer dials of Nigel Tufnell's guitar amplifier in the mockumentary This Is Spinal Tap, apparently to give it that extra push over the cliff. So, and the last DLC, which has like no information on it, unfortunately, is Claptrap's new robot revolution. Essentially, Claptrap gets infected with a ninja virus and decides that he must awaken all of his brethren, the Claptraps. And they stage a coup and start killing people and turning them into robots. Lo and behold, you just go through, you destroy all the robots and everything, and then you knock some sense into Claptrap, yada yada yada. So the real thing that a lot of people hated about Borderlands 1 DLC is that all 3 of the main DLCs that were not Moxie's Underdome featured a, hey, collect this for me, which is essentially like in Zed you needed to collect brains, in General Knox you needed to collect certain boosters that different enemies dropped, and in Claptraps you need to collect Claptrap components. Now the reason it's annoying is because you have to find the person to give you that quest, and then it's like collect 10, you turn it in. Collect 25, turn it in. Collect 50, turn it in. Collect 100, turn it in. Collect 250. It was just needless grinding of enemies to get the stuff. And that was the annoying thing. So, anyway, let's move on to Borderlands 2. So, set 5 years after the events of Borderlands 1, Handsome Jack, the game's main antagonist, has taken over the Hyperion Corporation, declared himself dictator of Pandora, and taking all of the credit for finding the vault, going so far as to claim responsibility for killing the Destroyer. Jack has also blotted out much of the light of the planet by having a giant orbiting H-shaped base set in front of Pandora's stationary moon, creating a Big Brother atmosphere throughout the planet. The new group of Vault Hunters in Borderlands 2 are tasked with killing Jack and returning peace to Pandora. Borderlands 2 begins with the protagonists on a train to an unspecified location, begin their search for the vault. The train turns out to be a trap set by Handsome Jack to kill all who search for the vault. Vault Hunters defend themselves long enough to reach a train car filled with explosives and a dummy Handsome Jack lookalike. The detonation causes the train to crash into the Arctic wasteland, with our new team strewn across the wreckage. Game picks up with the Vault Hunters waking up to Claptrap digging through the remains. The mysterious guardian angel then contacts them, explaining Handsome Jack must be killed, directing players to rescue the 4 original Vault Hunters from Hyperion's clutches to accomplish this. All 4 of the original Vault Hunters reappear in the sequel as NPCs, taking a pivotal role during the main storyline and offering optional missions that continue their personal stories. Right, I do agree about it. I also love hearing the plot all laid out like this, especially since the story is good, fun, and very enjoyable. And there is an overarching story, kind of hidden in all the other things. So, there are 6 classes, 2 of them being DLC. You've got Axton the Commando with the ability to use his turret. There's Maya the Siren with the ability to grasp people with her phase lock ability. There's Salvador the Gunzeka, the man who just loves guns and can dual wield. And then there's Zero the Assassin, who can go invisible, throw kunai, and is just a critical hit master. And then the DLC characters, there's Krieg the Psycho, who is a psycho and very strong melee-centered. And then there's Gage the Necromancer. She's got a robot buddy who likes to destroy things. Let's see. There are some brand new weapon manufacturers, and each of these manufacturers have different abilities on their things. There's the Bandit brand of weapons, which these weapons have the largest magazines in the game, but have mediocre stats. Dull weapons focus on stability, precision, and burst fire. There's Hyperion with a very high accuracy with sci-fi styling. However, the accuracy of Hyperion weapons increase the longer you hold the trigger, which means they actually have very low accuracy. Jacob's weapon retains the traditional high damage but non-elemental. with high recoil and low magazine sizes. It's a very Wild West-inspired aesthetic. Maliwan is completely focused on elemental. TDR weapons are described as cheap plastic pieces of crap and Walmart guns by the director of the game. Instead of being reloaded, you yeet your TDR weapons away and they explode like grenades. Then there's Torg with gyrojet ammunition, basically just all explosions. And then Vladov is high rate of fire, minigun-like games. Some trivia. Borderlands 2 is considered by many critics and players alike to be the best Borderlands game to date. I don't know when this was last updated. The Psycho on the cover makes the gun gesture with both hands and aims them at his head again. This is a repeat of the first game. So, yada yada yada. On to the first DLC for Borderlands 2, which is Captain Scarlet and her pirate's booty. As spoken by Marcus Kincaid at the start of the DLC, legends speak of Captain Blade's lost treasure of the sands, of a prize so great that men would turn the sands red in the pursuit of it, of a pirate queen courageous and deadly, who would stop at nothing to find it, of a monstrous leviathan, of the vault hunters who journeyed to the desert town of Oasis, not knowing the horrors that would befall them. The story begins with Marcus telling another story to an orphan boy about the treasures of the sand. The vault hunters have been notified of a secret treasure travel to Oasis, a small oceanside town that suffered the same effects as the Parched Fathoms from the first game. They find the town being pillaged by sand pirates who are trying to steal the town's remaining water. After dealing with the pirates, vault hunters meet Shade, who, being deranged due to the drought and his loneliness using the corpse of the other townsfolk as company, he tells them to find Captain Scarlet, who also has an interest in the treasure and of course plans to double-cross the vault hunters after they find the treasure, even though she assures you multiple times that she has no plans to double-cross you. Shade tells the players that they need to find a sand skiff to reach her. He lends them his, but it suddenly breaks down. They must find the parts from among Shank's friends to repair the vehicle. They find the last part near a sandworm colony. The queen sandworm steals the part and must be killed to claim the part. After claiming all the parts from repairing the sand skiff, the players head to Worm Water, where Captain Scarlet is. They find her on the ship, only to be attacked by sand pirate outcasts. After dealing with the pirates, they meet Captain Scarlet, who kills one of her crew for an unknown reason. Tells them that the treasure can only be located using the special lens called the compass, which was split into 4 parts. She is the first piece with her old cohorts having the others. They must first hijack a Hyperion caravan. You have to go find and kill Sandman. And then, of course, you have to head to the rest yard to go find Herbert, the man who deeply loves her. They find out that the last piece is broken, so they have to go make a new one. You come across a large loader called Hurley, which is a reference to Wally. Then they take the part to Herbert, and he repairs the compass. You take the compass to the lighthouse, and in fact, the compass is just an old light bulb for the lighthouse. It shines on a single patch of sand in the warm water. Scarlet finds the spot, immediately proceeds, but suddenly is cut off. Vault hunters head to the same spot and are attacked by the Leviathan. You kill the Leviathan and you raid the giant notable treasury. You can repeat this once more to get even more loot. So, yeah, that is that DLC. I like the DLCs for 2. I thought it was really fun. Interesting. Then there's Mr. Torg's campaign of carnage. The Vault Hunters are invited by Mr. Torg to enter a combat tournament at the badass creator of Badassitude. It is revealed that the arena there was built on top of another vault on Pandora. When they arrive at the crater, Torg tells them they must sign up for the tournament. Even though the terminal explodes, Torg has the Vault Hunters enter anyway. Torg instructs them to find Piston and team up with him in the arena. They find several bandit gangs that have also joined the tournament. After finding their way to the arena, they meet Piston. Though the caster accidentally said cheater in front of Piston, he was killed even if he hadn't meant to say it. After meeting Piston, he agrees to team up, but only if the Vault Hunter proves himself in the arena. After fighting gladiators, the Vault Hunters are suddenly struck with gas. Piston reveals that he would never team up or share riches with the vault with anyone. After searching the storage room, Vault Hunters must find a new sponsor. They find Tiny Tina, who lives in a bus under a ruined highway. She informs Vault Hunters of a gladiator who is one rank higher than them, Pyro Pete. They must travel to the arena backstage to get cookies to build their strength. It turns out that the kind of cookies that Tina thought were chocolate chip turned out to be oatmeal raisin. Then she demands that the Vault Hunters destroy the machines out of rage for not having Tina's favorite flavor. Then they head down to the beatdown where they go find Pyro Pete, destroy the bar, and destroy Pyro Pete, and rescue Moxie. Returning to the bar, Moxie tells the Vault Hunters of the third gladiator, Motor Mama. They must complete a time trial around the crater in order to gain access to get Motor Mama's interest. After finishing the trial, Motor Mama challenges them to fight at the Southern Raceway. You get there, you destroy her. Then you move on to the next, which is Flyboy. However, by the time you get to Flyboy, Flyboy is shot down by Piston, who stole a blimp, and you have to now destroy that blimp. Then you go fight Piston, the number one, with his Badassasaurus Rex. You kill Piston and you become the number one badass on Pandora, and you are showered with guns. So, this boss is kind of annoying, but there's a really cheap way to kill it, and that's how I've always killed it, because trying to fight that thing legitimately solo is annoying. And now turning to probably one of my more disliked DLCs for 2 is Sir Hammerlock's Big Game Hunt. So, the story. Danger, excitement, mustaches. It's time for another episode of Vault Hunter Adventures featuring Sir Hammerlock. In this week's tale, our hard-boiled heroes travel to the savage continent of Erebus. Their goal, to uncover the most exotic creatures Pandora has to offer and give them the old 1-2. So, yeah. Basically, this DLC is all about doing big game hunts with Hammerlock. However, you are interrupted by Professor Nakayama, who is obsessed with Handsome Jack and is trying to bring him back. And so you end up having to go and try to stop him. After fighting through hordes of tribesmen who have been altered with Handsome Jack's DNA to resemble crazy Handsome Jack's, you finally find his crashed ship, gain access, and then you have to fight a Jackenstein, which is a giant Frankenstein Jack. Once you kill it, Professor Nakayama shows up only to trip on the stairs, fall down, and break his neck and die, making him the easiest boss you've ever fought. So, yeah. That is Hammerlock's Big Game Hunt. It's got some really annoying missions. Like, one of the missions is, I want you to hunt down all the rare abominations. As in, every monster has a slight chance of spawning as a rare variant. And there's about, 7 to 8 of them. And you have to kill a number of each of them. Which is annoying, because 1, they're rare. 2, you get it about halfway into the game, so you've probably already killed a bunch of the rare ones in between. So, that's why I don't like it. It's kind of annoying. And, yeah. And now on to probably my favorite DLC from the Borderlands 2. It's Tiny Tina's assault on Dragon Keep. Taking place after the events of Borderlands 2, Tina and the first group of Vault Hunters decide to play a game of bunkers and badasses, Pandora's equivalent to the tabletop game Dungeons & Dragons. Tina serves as the bunker master and narrator of the DLC and changes the world in dynamic ways as the story progresses, such as altering the appearance of locations and adding characters and bosses. The plot involves the new Vault Hunters playing characters within the campaign, each responding to Tina's narration in their own way. Their quest is to rescue the Queen from an evil sorcerer and restore peace and tranquility to the land. The journey to Dragon Keep ultimately has Tina coming to terms with the death. It's her trying to face the facts of the events from Borderlands 2, and this is her way of coming to terms with it. It's very heart-wrenching, and you really feel for her. Some trivia. This DLC was originally teased at PAX East 2013, but wasn't confirmed until it was accidentally leaked by Anthony Birch, who took a picture of a passed-out friend with the poster showing in the background. It has since been confirmed officially and given an official release, obviously. This DLC has a large number of references such as items, locations, and challenges related to content of other famous fantasy games, films, and TV shows. The original idea for the DLC was to have the Vault Hunters venturing through a Hyperion facility where the facility director could manipulate everything and turned it into a big game of Dungeons & Dragons. Concept was changed that the creators felt that having Tiny Tina run the game would give them more freedom to be creative and spontaneous. Most elements in Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep have counterparts in the main story, i.e. Handsome Jack is based on... the Handsome Sorcerer is based on Handsome Jack. Counterparts of Knights serving the Handsome Sorcerer are the Loaders in the main story. So on. Even the plot of this DLC is a fantasy version of the main storyline with similar twists and turns. So, in my opinion, this was incredibly well done. Because it really just kind of brought about this whole idea of, hey, here's this fantastical world, however, at the same time, it's, you're rehashing the entire plot. I really enjoyed it because it just allowed for so much creativity. Really. You're getting things you wouldn't expect out of a shooter. You're getting that fantastical D&D feel. So, another thing that all 4 of the Borderlands 2 main DLCs brought on was, the fact that I'm trying to get raid bosses. So there are raid bosses that were brought on in this game, and they're fantastically difficult. I've actually never killed a raid boss by myself, which also means I've never killed a raid boss. Because they're wonderfully difficult. Their health are ginormous. And, yeah. It's something. Alright. Let's see. That kind of does it for Borderlands 2. There's a lot of other Borderlands 2 DLCs, though. There's a lot of, just smaller expansion. Like, for instance, there's, Digital Peak, which allows for, players to advance to rank 72 in-game, as well as it includes 8 OP levels, at which point you have to complete Digistruck Peak, and when you do, you gain 1 OP level, which means that every OP level is just basically 1 extra level. So instead of being 72, you're 72 OP1, which means you're level 73. So technically the max cap for Borderlands is 80, I believe. And, yeah, I personally in my playthrough on my Xbox 360, I have gotten to OP6. I've never fully OP'd because I just stopped caring. But there's also things called Headhunter Packs, which are very, very small, couple-hour DLCs with no real plot other than just going around and doing a couple of missions to get skins and heads. One of the favorite ones for everybody is the Christmas Headhunter Pack, because you get a ton of loot from that, and it's very high chance for it to be a legendary. So, yeah, that's Borderlands 2. Let's move on to the pre-sequel. So, set between Borderlands and Borderlands 2, 4 aspiring Vault Hunters fight alongside Handsome Jack and witness his transformation from kinda dickish snob to ruthless tyrant that people love to hate in Borderlands 2, and inadvertently assisting with the rise of the Hyperion Corporation and his position within it. The pre-sequel begins as Colonel Zarpedon and her Lost Legion assault and capture Helios space station. Jack proceeds to send his new Vault Hunters to the surface of Elpis, Pandora's moon, in an effort to find a way to retake the station. Unlike Borderlands or Borderlands 2, where events take place as they occur, the events of Borderlands, the pre-sequel, are the story told by captured Athena to an audience of Lilith, Mordecai, and Brick, with occasional interjects from other characters as the story progresses. The signature shoot-and-loot gameplay of the Borderlands series expands with the addition of low-gravity combat and oxygen-powered double-jumping, the icy cryo element, the deadly and varied laser weapon class, and the new vehicles to help explore the lunar landscape of Elpis. There are 6 characters, 4 of them main, 2 DLC. There is Athena the Gladiator, the former Lance Assassin, with the ability to use her shield to both yeet it at people, Captain America style, as well as to absorb damage and then yeet that damage back. There's Wilhelm the Enforcer, the Hyperion Engineer, who upgrades his body with cybernetics as you upgrade him, and have a pair of robots called Wolf and Saint who assist him. There's Nisha the Lawbringer, a sociopathic gun-waving sharpshooter. Her ability is to have pinpoint accuracy, rapid reload, and improved gun damage. And there's Claptrap the Frag Trap, who is the only character I've ever played in this DLC. He's a robot with supercharged experimental software package, which is actually just giant malware. And he's got some pretty OP abilities. The 2 DLC characters are Jack the Doppelganger, who is a body double of Handsome Jack, and can use digistructed copies to help him in battle. This is a character who shows up in Borderlands 3. And then there's Aurelia the Baroness, the trillionaire sister to Sir Hammerlock, who uses her frost abilities in battle. So, yeah. Like I said, there's a couple of new things introduced to this game. There's Cryo, which replaced Slag. There's Laser, which is additional weapon type. There's Scav weapons, which replaced Bandit weapons. And then there's a Glitch Rarity weapon, which is introduced in the Claptrap DLC. Other than that, there's not really anything else that changed in terms of that. There's a Grinder in this game, which if you combine 3 items of the same rarity, you can have the potential to create a higher quality item. You have to use moonstones to ensure the best possible outcome. And yeah. Not too much else. Pandora's moon is named Elpis after the Greek personification and spirit of hope, the last thing that was freed from Pandora's box. So. Yeah, that's kind of the main story. You kind of got to go through Borderlands, the pre-sequel, to figure out, how exactly Jack came to be, As you know, Nisha and Wilhelm are bosses in Borderlands 2, still working for Jack. You find out their story and what happened. Athena's obviously not in Borderlands 2. She just is referenced in this DLC. Claptrap obviously is Claptrap. Lady Aurelia doesn't show up again until 3, and same with the handsome Jack doppelganger, whose name is Timmy. And then, of course, there's my favorite DLC, which is also the only DLC from this pack, which is called the Claptastic Voyage, but it's also the Ultimate Vault Hunter Upgrade Pack 2. It adds the new story campaign, locations, a new weapon variety, and customizable, repeatable Slaughter Dome Arena, as well as increases the level cap by 10. The plot is, after the conclusion of the pre-sequel, Handsome Jack learns that Tacitor hid a powerful top-secret code deep within Claptrap dubbed the H-Source. To extract the H-Source from Claptrap, Handsome Jack digitizes his Vault Hunters, including the Claptrap, and sends them inside Claptrap's mind to obtain it. What seems like a simple task turned out to be not so simple. This features a new weapon variety called Glitch. Glitch weapons feature moving binary code over their bodies, an occasional distorting appearance, and have a chance to choose from up to 4 different glitch effects to change how the weapon operates. Yeah, that's about it. Of course, there's also the Slaughter Dome, which is kind of cool because you can change the rules. You can add buffs or debuffs, change gravity, oxygen. There's so much to change and do in this. It's just really cool. So, some trivia. The dialogue in the opening and ending cutscenes will differ by the selected difficulty mode, though the cutscene itself remains the same. The title of the DLC is a play on the 1966 movie Fantastic Voyage, about a group of scientists who are shrunk down to microscopic sizes to enter the body of another man and repair damage to his brain. Now we're going to move on to Tales from the Borderlands. Not much to say about this. Tales from the Borderlands is an episodic graphic adventure game series developed by Telltale Games, with creative input from Gearbox Software. Unlike the Borderlands shooter games, Tales of the Borderlands is a storytelling adventure where the players choose how the story plays out. There are twists and turns that are dependent on player choices, and using simple keyboard or mouse commands, players will be asked to react to situations. The game will usually wait until a decision is made, but sometimes choices must be made before time runs out. The episodes feature 2 main characters, Reese, a Hyperion business shark, and Fiona, a tough as nails gone honest. They have vastly different personalities, but their circumstances force them to work together. How they and other characters in the story react is up to the player. Every choice made and everything they say is remembered by other characters and can influence later events. Oh, excuse me. There are a total of 5 episodes in the adventure, each with their own release date. Chronology-wise, events from Tales from the Borderlands are unreliably narrated by Reese and Fiona, roughly a year after they actually happened. Relative to overall timeline, episodes 1 to 3 take place sometime after the events of Borderlands 2, just right before Borderlands, the pre-sequel's prologue and epilogue, and remaining are set shortly after that. Because if you think about it, within there, you do see Athena, but Athena is captured and taken to Lilith. And because of that, episode 4 takes place at the prologue for the pre-sequel, but that's still after Borderlands 2. So yeah, 1 through 3 is right before the pre-sequels, prologue, epilogue, and then 4 and 5 are set after that. So, and then of course we've got the 4th main game, Borderlands 3. Taking place approximately 7 years after the events of Borderlands 2 and 5 years after the events of Tales from the Borderlands, Borderlands 3 begins with 4 new Vault Hunters. Amara the Siren, who likes fisticuffs, Flack the Beastmaster, who utilizes beasts to fight, Mars the Gunner, who's got herself a diva-like robot, and Zane the Operative, who likes to go invisible and shoot people. They join Lilith's Crimson Raiders as new recruits sent to investigate the Children of the Vault cult and their mysterious leaders, the Calypso twins Tyrene and Troy, who are believed to be in possession of the long-lost Vault map. Upon reclaiming the Vault map, the Crimson Raiders and their allies board the Sanctuary 3 spacecraft to journey beyond Pandora to other planets throughout the galaxy to claim the vaults they hold before the Calypsos can steal their power for themselves. So this is just an enhanced, more insane version of Borderlands. It's still ongoing, obviously, because we've got 3 DLCs out so far, with a 4th coming along its way. The DLCs are where they started adding in more characters that they didn't have already. So, for instance, the first DLC, Moxie's Heist at the Handsome Jackpot, adds in Timmy. Handsome Jack is long dead, but a legacy of his still exists in the form of a gigantic space casino known as the Handsome Jackpot. Moxie has decided that she wants to raid the casino and claim its riches for herself, so she's asked the Vault Hunters for their help. However, the casino is not abandoned. Jack had staffed the casino with upgraded loader bots. The patrons that were trapped in the casino when Jack died have gone essentially feral, and the maniacal pretty boy lords over everything within. The heist isn't going to be as simple as Maxie first thought. You have to team up with Timmy to basically take it out. Second DLC, which was really cool, Guns, Love, and Tentacles, the marriage of Wainwright and Hammerlock. Sir Alistair Hammerlock and Wainwright Jacobs are getting married on the distant frozen world of Xylorgus, and the Vault Hunters are all invited, with Gage as the wedding planner and Claptrap showing up uninvited, of course. Surely nothing can go wrong. It turns out that Xylorgus is home to a fanatical cult that worships the gigantic dead monster that adorns the landscape above and around the wedding venue, and the cult's leader has her eyes set on one of the grooms. It's time to save a wedding. So, this was a very big, what's the word I'm looking for? H.P. Lovecraft inspired. Actually, that's the trivia. The aesthetic of the DLC is inspired by the works of early 20th century American author H.P. Lovecraft, whose short stories and novellas are highly influential in the genre of horror across all types of media. The names of each of the story missions are a play on the title of one of his short stories. The Party Out of Space is a reference to The Color Out of Space. The Shadow over Cursehaven is a reference to The Shadow over Innsmouth. The Case of Wainwright's Jacobs is a reference to the case of Charles Dexter Ward. The Horror of in the Woods is a reference to The Horror at Red Hook. On the Mountain of Mayhem is a reference to At the Mountains of Madness. And The Call of Githian is a reference to The Call of Cthulhu. So this is really cool. This probably had some of the better random enemies and bosses, in my opinion. So, and then finally we get to the third DLC that came out June 25th. 2 months ago. Many years ago on the planet of Gehenna, a corporation known to the populace as only the Company conducted experiments that ruined the majority of the planet, answering a share's bounty for remains of the civilization on Gehenna. The Vault Hunters must defend the town of Vestige from a gang of outlaws known as the Devil Riders, who seek to use the Company's leftover technology to take over what remains of Gehenna. And, yeah, so this had probably the easiest of the bosses introduced in all of the 3 DLCs thus far. This is a very Western style, with a lot of references to, like, shootouts and everything. This one was also cool, not as cool as the other one. Bounty of Blood is unique in the Borderlands franchise in that it contains a narrator of the events. Unlike Athena retelling the events of the story in Borderlands the pre-sequel, the narrator in Bounty of Blood narrates and adds flavor to real-time events across all story and side missions as they happen, with the playable Vault Hunters occasionally acknowledging the narrator's existence. So, yeah. And of course, we've got the new DLC, which features heavily Krieg the Psycho. It's actually all about Krieg, I believe. And I'm going to be curious to see how that will play out. As for the future of Borderlands, I do believe that Randy Pitchford, whatever his last name is, the director of Borderlands and everything, or he's the head of Gearbox, one of the two. But I believe he said that there will be a Season 2 of content for Borderlands, which means new DLC, potential for new Vault Hunters, even though they said they're not going to add any Vault Hunters. Yes, the new DLC is about Krieg. They've been talking about that for months. 1, and 2, the official art for it shows Krieg. They did say that they weren't going to add new Vault Hunters because they claimed that nobody likes DLC Vault Hunters. The problem is the last DLC Vault Hunters they added, Aurelia and the Handsome Jack Doppelganger, were terrible. And Borderlands 2 DLC Gage and Krieg were probably the most popular. So I just don't think they want to add it. However, they are revamping the several things. They've revamped the badass system for Borderlands 2 in the pre-sequel is gone. Now there's something else instead, and it gives you not only does it give you the flat out stat boosts that you can choose, but it also gives you bonuses to your character as you just progress through it. So you actually get rewarded if you start a new game after you've completely maxed out everything there. They also revamped their Mayhem system, as well as they are revamping the skill trees. They're probably going to max out. They're going to probably add 10 to 20 levels to the game. It's going to be my guess, because they're adding a 4th skill tree instead of the usual 3. So that means every character is going to have a new potential ability, new passives, a new ultimate at the end of that skill tree. So because of that, as well as the 4 different Vault Hunters, there is a ton of replayability with it. However, it's just, I personally don't hold much stock in enjoying the other characters. Like, I've probably got interest in only 2 out of the Vault Hunters. I don't have any interest in playing Maz, and I have close to no interest in playing Zane, but I will play them. Just because it's Borderlands and I like Borderlands, it's just, I'm going to play it to get it over with type of deal. You know? Because, like, right now I've got a FLAC 100%, you know, beating the game. All stories, all DLC, max level. Kind of did the same with Mordecai and Borderlands 1. Same with... I have several characters 100% beating the game in every DLC, or every Borderlands game, so whatever. But, there's still a lot of hope for the future. It sounds like they're probably going to make a Borderlands 4 at some point in the future because people are still enjoying it. And they keep leaving the story open for more vault hunting adventures. So where they're going to take it from there, I am unsure. But, you know, it is a good series to get into just for casual play, too. Like, you don't... Like, sure, there's some things you won't be able to do if you just play casually, but at the same time, there's still a ton you can do casually, and just enjoy the game, just shoot things. Collect a tiny fraction of the multi-million different types of guns. You'll probably never get the same gun twice. It may look like the same gun. Like, the only time you'll get the same gun is probably a legendary, which are kind of static in, like, what they have. But also, getting it is a little difficult sometimes, so... Legendaries are hard to find. Obviously, that's why they're legendary. But, yeah. I think that's about it for this Borderlands series overview. It's a great game, great series, obviously. I own Borderlands 1 and 2 on the Xbox 360, and then I bought Borderlands 1, 2, pre-sequel on PC. I have Borderlands 3 on PS4. Chances are I'll probably buy it on PC again in the future. Once it's, like, super on sale and I want to play with people, basically. Since you have to pay for online subscription to play online on PlayStation 4, which is dumb. But at the same time, it makes sense. But, yeah. I think we're going to call it right there. So, thank you everybody for watching. If you have any suggestions on what you want to hear next week, let me know, because I would like to do some research, obviously, ahead of time, to ensure that we can make the most out of our time together. And, yeah, we'll be live again next Sunday. So, thank you everybody for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. And until the next time, everybody, stay funky, people.